What's up everybody, and thank you for joining me for another video. My name is Whack4863, but you can call me Whack. In today's video, I'm going to compare two builds. We have a Junobot greatsword build and an Adentist greatsword build, and I'm going to show you both of those in this video. Just so you know, this is on two different characters, so there are some variations to the level of each of those characters. But I think I've got a good grasp on what to look for when you're putting these builds together. And before I jump into the actual build, I want to say that your rotation for your weapons is as important as putting your build together. So knowing what rotation to use in what scenarios is very important. I'm going to cover PvE content in this video. So we have PvE for open world, and then we have PvE for single target. When I say single target, I mean the final boss in a co-op dungeon or a field boss or world boss. Now I finally made a decision just to go with the Cazon daggers in this build, and the reason why is I want that guaranteed critical hit chance for my daggers and my greatsword. And before anyone tells me that it doesn't work on the greatsword, I just want to show you this. Right now, my melee critical hit is 1,491. If I switch out my daggers, say to Laquarius, and I go back to this page and I show you my melee critical hit chance, you can see that it's 1,026.5. If a passive on a weapon ever says that it only works with that weapon, then it obviously would only work with that weapon. But Cazon's Madness does work with both the greatsword skills and the dagger skills. Now, if you don't have a Cazon's daggers, I highly recommend Laquarius's Wicked Thorns for the additional 25 base damage increase for 3 seconds after using a dagger mobility skill, and that does work with greatswords as well. And the reason why I settled on the Cazon daggers is because the base damage for Junobot is very low on the low end and very high on the high end. So I want to hit criticals more often with my Junobot blade. So here's the armor and the accessories that I'm using. You obviously can set up your traits however you want, but I will not be covering those in this video. However you want to set up your traits is totally up to you. This is just what I decided to build and what works for me. So we have the Shadow Harvester mask, the Ancient Tapestry, we have the Swirling Essence robes, the Gauntlets of the Field General, the Greaves of the Field General, we have the Shadow Harvester boots, the Clasp of the Conqueror, the Ancient Ceridoma bracers, the Etched Alabaster band, the Amber Dimensional band, and then the Girdle of Spectral Skulls. What's important here is that you have 2 Shadow Harvester pieces for the increased critical damage of 14%. And then you have the 2 pieces of the Field General for the increased melee heavy attack chance of 150. Additionally, the Swirling Essence robe is there because I want that increased heavy attack chance. If we take a look at my melee heavy attack chance, it's 553 when I'm using dagger skills, and then it's 653.5 when I'm using greatsword skills. That's obviously before I apply any buffs from my skills. Our stat points are 50 in strength, 60 in dexterity, 20 in wisdom, and then 50 in perception. Let's jump into the skills, and we'll start with the passives for PvE content. This is open world farming. So we have Robust Constitution and Vital Force. Then we have Cold Warrior and Raging Frenzy. These are all greatsword skills. Then from the daggers, we have Assassin's Step, Wrathful Edge, Destructive Fang, and Assassin's Instincts. For the active skills, we have Cleaving Moonlight, Cruel Smite, Frost Cleaving, Stunning Blow, Death Blow, Shadow Strike, Ascending Slash, Guillotine Blade, Umbral Spirit, Devastating Smash, Inject Venom, and Da Vinci's Courage. For skill specializations in the dagger category, we have consecutive use and attack speed on Cleaving Moonlight. For Umbral Spirit, we have increased damage for poisoned attacks and then increased duration. All the rest of the points are going to be spent in the greatsword. We have the Cruel Smite and then increased damage. Then we have cooldown reduction and increased damage on the stunning blow. For Da Vinci's Courage, we have the instant healing. On the ascending slash, just the damage increase. For Death Blow, we have charges damage, cooldown reduction, and damage dealt to prone. For Gaia's Crash, we have Frost Cleaving, attack speed, and critical hit chance increase. For Devastating Smash, we're just taking duration. And then for Guillotine Blade, we're taking charges damage, cooldown reduction, and AoE damage. A quick side note for Death Blow, even if you charge this just for a second and then release it, it is going to do more damage with this charges damage than if you didn't specify into this. Now I want to cover the skill changes that I make for single targets. So this is the co-op dungeon final bosses and then any of the world bosses. You can see I've made quite a few adjustments here. Starting right off, we're going to take Robust Constitution, Cold Warrior, Vital Force, and then Victor's Morale. Then for the daggers, we're taking Murderous Energy, Wrathful Edge, Assassin's Instinct, and Destructive Fang. On our active skills, we have Cleaving Moonlight, Frost Cleaving, Valiant Brawl, Stunning Blow, Death Blow, Fatal Stigma, Ascending Slash, Guillotine Blade, Umbral Spirit, Will Breaker, Inject Venom, and Da Vinci's Courage. For the single target specializations under the daggers, we have Consecutive Use, Effect Accumulation, and attack speed for Cleaving Moonlight. Under Umbral Spirit, we're just taking additional damage for poisoned attacks. On Fatal Stigma, we're going to take the additional damage for health lost. Then on the greatsword for Valiant Brawl, we are just taking increased damage. For Stunning Blow, we're going to do cooldown reduction, increased damage, and then effect duration. For Ascending Slash, we're doing the damage increase and the cooldown reduction. For Death Blow, we're doing charges damage and cooldown reduction. Gaia's Crash, again, we're taking all three, Frost Cleaving, attack speed, and increased critical hit chance. Under Will Breaker, we're taking the evasion decrease. And then for Guillotine Blade, we're just taking charges damage and cooldown reduction. For the PvE rotation, what I like to do is get a large group of mobs together, hit them with a Devastating Smash. Then you'll go into either Frost Cleaving or Cleaving Moonlight. Once you've used either one of those, you're then going to go into Cruel Smite. If you did the Cleaving Moonlight, you would then go Frost Cleaving and then your Stunning Blow. You should have time to go back to your Cleaving Moonlight again, and then use your Death Blow. I then Shadow Strike one enemy, use an Ascending Slash to put them on the ground, and usually I can clean everything up with my Guillotine Blade. Obviously, you're going to pop all your buffs before going into any of these encounters when they're ready. Now, each one of these has different durations, so I usually do Da Vinci's Courage, then Umbral Spirit, then I use Inject Venom before using Devastating Smash. When it comes to a single target, what you're going to want to do is pop all your buffs, then start with Frost Cleaving. That's going to give you the increased attack speed and critical hit chance. Then you're going to go with Will Breaker over to a single cast of Cleaving Moonlight, then Violent Brawl, Stunning Blow, and Death Blow. Back to a Cleaving Moonlight, use your second ability for the Inject Venom, then you're going to go to Fatal Stigma, Ascending Slash, and clean it up with the Guillotine Blade. That's my opening rotation, and that's the rotation that I try to adhere to throughout the fight, although these skills are going to have different times for them to come off cooldown, so you can cast in a different order once you've opened up with that rotation, but anytime you can put that rotation together, in my opinion, that's my best damage output. So let's take a look at this dungeon with the Junobot Blade using these practices. So keeping the rotation in mind, one other thing that you want to do is identify the ranged enemies, and you want to drag the other enemies to that ranged enemy. the melee enemies will follow you to that ranged enemy. And it's best to wait until more enemies are stacked up, or hopefully your tank is actually stacking them all in a single location. But we've had some pretty chunky hits. The other thing that I should mention is that I am using the dagger block for a couple of reasons. One, it gives me mana back when I need it, when I do a block. The other reason is that it gives me stealth when I roll dodge, and that stealth allows me to critical hit when I come out of it. Remember, I'm chasing the critical hit as much as possible with the Junobot blade so that I can get that high-end damage. And I even implore that during these boss fights when I have to roll dodge, or sometimes even when I don't have to roll or I just have to block, I'll use that so that when I cast my next skill, it's going to critical hit every time. And I use my heaviest hitting damage at that point in time, whatever's off cooldown. Now, Junobot's Warblade has a couple of other noteworthy things to mention about it. First of all, you get Junobot's Void. Shock or stun duration is increased by 1.1 second when applying these effects to enemies with 50% or less health with greatsword skills. The Warblade also has an additional stun chance at 242, making it really good for stunning other players in PvP. Alright, so now we're on my other character, different server, different build. This is going to be the Adentist build. So let's jump right into it. So with this build, we have Laquarius's Wicked Thorns and then the Adentist Greatsword. Jumping into our equipment, we have the Shadow Harvester Mask, the Forsaken Embrace, Swirling Essence Robes, the Gauntlets of the Field General, the Shadow Harvester Trousers, the Sabatons of the Field General, the Collar of Decimation, the Ancient Ceradoma Bracers, the Etched Alabaster Band, the Amber Dimensional Band, and the Belt of Bloodlust. Obviously, I don't have all this fully traded out, so I am losing some damage for the Adentist Greatsword because I'm not at the maximum health that I possibly could be. Now, the thing about the Adentist Greatsword that everybody loves is that this is guaranteed damage as long as you have the health. So the healthier you are, the more damage you're doing, which is very different from Junobot, which has high-end damage, and it doesn't matter how much health you have, but it also has a very low damage on the low end. That's why critical hit is so important for that build. For this one, I have the Laquarius's Wicked Thorns because I don't need the critical hit chance on this build. Now, the skills for this and the rotation are the exact same as what I've already told you, and the damage is actually very similar, even though my masteries are much lower and some of my skills actually aren't leveled up as high as they are on the other character. But let's take a look at the exact same dungeon so that we can compare the damage dealt to the exact same enemies. So the big difference between Junobot's Warblade and the Adentist Greatsword is that you do more consistent damage with the Adentist Greatsword than you do Junobot's. Obviously, when you hit the criticals with Junobot's, you're getting big explosive damage, but that comes with the downside of when you are not hitting those criticals, you're not doing higher damage. So the Adentist Greatsword ends up being better just because of its consistency. However, I definitely miss out on that increased stun chance from Junobot when it comes to PvP. There are plenty of times where I know that if I hit someone with my Junobot blade, it would have stunned them, where it didn't with my Adentist Greatsword. And both builds definitely have their flaws. If you are building for Junobot, you have to build for high crit chance. If you're building for Adentist, you have to build for high health. But having a chance to play with both, what I can say is if I had to do this all over again, if I didn't have Junobot or I didn't have Adentist, which one would I chase? And it comes down to it really doesn't matter. I wouldn't chase either one, I would try to get either or, and whichever one I ended up with first is the one that I would continue to use until tier 2. So if you happen to be in a place where you were thinking about switching or you haven't gotten either one of these weapons, say you're still using Duke Magnus Fury Warblade, either one is going to do just fine. And really the two builds that I showed you are very similar. Two Shadow Harvester pieces, two Field General pieces, and the only real difference of why I have different gear on my characters is because I wanted the additional move speed on my character that has the boots of the Field General. And I want more max health on my character that has the Adentist greatsword. And I've done the Gate of Infinity with both characters, and they're usually only seconds apart with the same rotation. So if you are thinking you're going to get massive amounts of increased damage from picking one sword or the other, that's just not the case. The Adentist greatsword just happens to fit into more builds more easily than the Junobot Warblade, and that's why it seems to be the more popular choice. Let me know in the comment section below what's your experience, what Warblade and daggers are you using, and how do you feel about them? I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. Don't forget to whack the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content. And if you don't want to be out of whack, there's another video on the screen right now that you can click to support more of my content.